This is Rob Palazewski, and you are listening to The History of the Future, where we look into our history to see into our future. No fake news here, just a big fat dose of the truth. And by the way, if you're interested in this stuff, you can contact me at rob@atpministry.com, or just go to atpministry.com, sign up for the newsletter there. We've got some breaking news. We believe it's pretty solid. And I'm going to be reading from several sources here to let you know what's going on in the legal fight for the election, because that legal fight is still going on. It is not over. If you were a Trump supporter, don't despair. If you are a Biden supporter, you might want to beware, because there's some big stuff going on here. I knew right after the election, when Trump, the supposed losing candidate, fired Esper, his Secretary of Defense, I just knew that there was something big connected to that. A losing candidate would not do that, because what would be the purpose of the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is up until the inauguration? It would have almost no effect. So you're changing horses at the Department of Defense. And he has installed a temporary head of the Department of Defense, and they are running a program that could be the key to revealing major vote fraud. You might have seen the press conference with Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani, in which she said, "Release the Kraken." And, what's that talking about? Well, was that from the Clash of the Titans? And it just seemed like, just a gutsy remark. But she wasn't joking. What the Kraken is, and this is pretty interesting. The Kraken, spelled Kraken, if you want to start looking this stuff up, is a Department of Defense run cyber warfare program. So Trump changes the head of the DOD, the Department of Defense, and then we find out that the Kraken is a Department of Defense run cyber warfare program. You know what it does? It tracks and hacks other systems, and it is gathering evidence on the actions of the deep state. That's the story that's out there from several sources. And right now it is being claimed that President Trump and loyal patriots in the military and in the Space Command, that new service that Trump pushed out there, are gathering the evidence of voter fraud. And we know as of Wednesday, the 25th, which is the day I'm recording this, that Sidney Powell, who is no longer part of the president's team but is acting separately in lawsuits, was going to file suit, I believe that in Georgia, and I don't know whether she's bringing this information at that time, but this is pretty amazing stuff. The acting Secretary of Defense is named Chris Miller, and he is a patriot. He is a patriot who wants to root out the deep state, and he has said this: should any maligned actors underestimate our resolve or attempt to undermine our efforts, we will not hesitate to restore deterrence and defeat any and all threats. So right now you've got sectors of the Special Forces operation reporting directly to Secretary Miller. And those guys are aligned with Trump and the Constitution and defending America and rooting out this voter fraud. It's pretty amazing stuff. Now, at that original news conference, which I believe was on the 18th or 19th, Sidney Powell was there, Rudy Giuliani was there, and they were talking about the Dominion servers. You probably heard about Dominion voting machines and the way that they were doing two things. They were taking and discarding ballots on the one hand by the hundreds of thousands in some states, and they were discarding Trump ballots, and others they were switching, and they were switching them to Biden ballots. And then there was a program called Hammer, which was being used, that was also stealing votes. And this is all connected to the CIA and the deep state. Okay, Rudy Giuliani said that, I'm giving you a couple of highlights from that press conference. He said that 682,770 mail-in ballots were identified and would have to be thrown out because they were uncertifiable. Sidney Powell confirmed that the Dominion servers in Germany were confiscated. and that was a special forces operation from what we can tell. So the president sent special forces to Germany because that is where they were counting our votes. Pretty amazing, huh? They weren't even being counted in America. We sent special forces to seize them. And then Sidney Powell also said that an algorithm was plugged in to steal votes from President Trump during the election. So in real time, and I've heard from other sources that the president was overseeing and watching some of this go on, some of this cheating going on in real time. Just amazing stuff here. There is a former military insider, and he's an analyst now by the name of Jeffrey Prather. You can go to jeffreyprather.com, and he's talking about the Great Reset versus the Great Awakening. You know, they are planning a Great Reset, and the Great Reset is going to basically turn us into a socialist, communist world government. They are moving toward this, and they are using COVID and the lockdowns and the masking and all of that garbage. And I say garbage. I'm not saying that the virus is not real. Yes, the virus is real, and the virus can be deadly, but it is being massaged and moved in order to set up this one world government with the Great Reset. And the Great Reset is going to involve getting rid of cash, going to electronic money. Eventually trading, they will take away all your debts, and in exchange, you will own no property. I mean, it's bizarre. That's like communism on steroids. So what we've established here and is that the Kraken is a DoD-run cyber warfare program. This is the important part. And Trump has loyalists in the Air Force and Space Command, especially, that are working toward developing evidence of massive voter fraud. Now, I talked about how they were using the COVID virus and the lockdowns as a means to move us into the New World Order. And I know that sounds, tinfoil hat crazy, but it is not. It is not by any means. Check this. This is in Newark, New Jersey's largest city. The police have set up checkpoints on roads coming into the city and demanding the people show proof of residency and proof that they are doing an essential activity. They're locking up all the Newark residents for 10 days from November 25th, which is today, the day I'm recording this, through December 4th. That is what they're trying. They're talking about having some similar system set up in New York City. That's the New World Order that we are heading into. But now we're talking about these lockdowns, and what's interesting is this morning I'm laying in bed trying not to wake up. It's 4 something in the morning probably, and I'm fully awake, and I'm running the numbers in my head, the numbers from the CDC and the numbers from the World Health Organization, because I wanted to use their numbers. Do they indeed justify a lockdown? So the first number that pops into my head is that, according to them, the latest ones I saw, you have a 99.78% chance of surviving this COVID if you get it. That means out of every 10,000 people, 22 people would die. Oh, but it's so, does this justify a lockdown? But it gets even better than this. According to the CDC, and I had that article on my desk for weeks, that it would just sit there on top. According to the CDC, it was something like 12.6% of the COVID deaths were actually from COVID alone. So now you take that 12.6% of those 22 people, let's move it up to 13%. So of those 22 people, you do that. 13% of that is 3 people at the most, if you're rounding up. So out of that 10,000, 3, according to their numbers, 3 people would die. Does this justify locking down the country? It's they're shuttering businesses. They're cratering the economy. And so this is a ginned up crisis. I'm looking at an article from David Solway here, and he puts a chart on there, average disease deaths per day worldwide. Okay, so we're looking at here tuberculosis, 3,014. Hepatitis B, 2,430. Malaria, 2,002. I'm just picking here and there. COVID-19, 88 per day. Are they shutting down the world for any of these others? We become afraid that we're going to be infected. Soloway calls this, or he's quoting a psychiatrist who called this a pandemic of hysteria, a delusional psychosis. And he explains a delusion is a fixed, false belief contrary to reality. And that's what we see when we see people masking up in their cars. People, your car is your mask, okay? If you're that afraid of a moving virus while you're driving 60 miles an hour or even 15 miles an hour, your car is your mask. Take your mask off in your car. You don't want to breathe that stuff, okay? Please understand that. This psychiatrist says this is a lie. It's killing us. It is killing us physically, mentally, socially, psychologically. It's killing our country, and it must stop. And then you've got, and I'm sure you've heard of some of this here, the Great Barrington Declaration, signed now by tens of thousands of doctors and scientists. And we're talking some very eminent physicians. And they're going, stop this. This is not working. The lockdown's got to end. Everything needs to, obviously, I'm paraphrasing here. And they talk about, people who are more at risk may participate if they wish, but society as a whole enjoys the protection conferred upon the vulnerable by those who have built up herd immunity. So you got that going on. And then there was another group that got together. It was called the Truth Over Fear Summit. It was held in October. And they all agreed there that the lockdowns are causing far more harm than COVID-19 itself. And many believe the pandemic is tied to the plans of global elites to implement a worldwide socialist surveillance state through the Great Reset. And that is the big danger now. The big danger is that they are moving us into a Great Reset, and they are going to reset society. This is the plan. So take heed. It's good to be back on the air. My name is Rob Palazewski, and you have been listening to The History of the Future. Contact us at atpministry.com. God bless.